AITAH for ignoring my uncle after he made my mom cry. I have this uncle, my mom's brother, who has been one of my mentors growing up. He taught me a different way of thinking while appreciating life as it is. He is way different from my dad, who is stoic and strict to me and my siblings. A few years back, I knew that my uncle and my dad have been butting heads verbally because of their differences. Please, during my parents' wedding, my dad's best man was my uncle. So I couldn't comprehend how this all started. They have been through a lot together as far as I know. These past few years has been tough for my mom, since the people fighting are her husband and her brother. Them fighting have been constant. There was this one time in a family gathering, with relatives from faraway places being present. I really do not want to be biased and side with anyone when they started arguing, but this is one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, where I had to try and stop them from fighting and fail miserably. No fists were involved, but a lot of taunting and cussing where a lot of people can see cause it was in public. Ever since that day I tried to help myself understand the situation. Why two of my role models growing up are acting like this. Everyone in my family tried to make the two patch things up, but it's no use, and I felt like it made things worse. On the eve of Christmas 2023, my whole family was supposed to visit my grandparents from my mom's side. Little did I know that my dad was forbade by my uncle to step in my grandparents' house. For what reason, I do not know. My dad, who actually folded to my uncle's warnings and didn't come with us to my grandparents' place. Take note, my grandparents do not know about this conundrum, and I recently just knew about it as well. This really broke my mom's heart, and cried before and during the way to my grandparents' house. This broke my heart as well, and I really didn't have the best appetite for Christmas Eve's dinner cause I just saw my mom cry a few hours back, and trying to hold as much tears to look strong and not ruin my grandparents' Christmas. After dinner, I forced my mom and my siblings to go home to our house and spend Christmas with my dad. Although as soon as I got home, I was really frustrated and confused, that I was in a sort of shock, that I cannot comprehend things that were happening. I received a gift from my uncle, sent through my grandparents, for Christmas, but was never able to thank him because of the things that happened earlier on Christmas Eve. A lot more happened with him and my parents after that, but it would just complicate the current story as my parents try not to involve me and my siblings. Ever since the start of the year, I started ignoring my uncle. He hasn't reached out to me since then. Although, people are saying he was trying to reach out but nothing really reached me. What was weird was that he even removed me from his social media accounts. I feel like my view and perspective of him changed a lot this past year. I tried and reflect on the things he taught me before, and this person who showed me these things doesn't feel like the same person anymore. A few weeks back, I had lunch with my mom and my grandmother, my uncle and mom's mother. In that place, my uncle was there with another group, and did not even greet any one of us. However, people from his party greeted my grandma as they saw her. I really felt disrespected at this point, and I was shocked that even my grandmother was ignored. I understand that he ignored me, and my mother maybe, because of the fact that I ignore him a lot this year, as well as the issues he and my mom have. But what I do not get, why he had to ignore my grandmother. This is what bothers me the most recently. My parents always tell me, and my siblings, that it is okay to meet up and communicate with him as he is still our uncle, and what's happening between them should only be between them. An example would be my younger brother reaches out to my uncle all the time, and I can see that there are no issues with my brother and my parents. Although I think that it is me who has a problem of reaching out, because I feel some sort of estranged feeling with how he treats my dad, which then affected my mom and all the additional fiasco after that. AITAH for ignoring him since the start of the year and did not try to reach out. Is what am I feeling valid? I know almost a year has passed, and the way things are feels even worse. AITAH for walking out of my son's kindergarten play because my wife wouldn't shut up. Today, my 32 meters, son's 5 meters, kindergarten had a little play. It was a short story involving a bunch of bunnies, giraffes, and sheep. My son, Kevin, was one of the giraffes. I was looking forward to it all week, but I was also anxious because my wife, Claire, 31F, tends to get very bad when we are in front of other people. She'll often become aggressive, short-tempered, and will be incredibly rude towards me. I think she does it performatively because she thinks it makes her look cool. Anyway, Claire and I arrived early to get front row seats in their small auditorium. First, as we waited, Claire began by putting her bag and other belongings on the two seats next to her. I had to get her to put them under her chair because other people might want to sit there. She accosted me because, of course I know that, I was going to move them when it got crowded. Then she began setting up a camera on a tripod on top of the seat, which would have obstructed the view of anyone else behind us. Luckily, one of the teachers there asked her nicely to take it down. Unfortunately, this put Claire in a foul mood, and I knew she would be taking it out on me eventually. The performance started, and our son did a great job. But he had a little giraffe hat on with a cord to go under his chin, and he put the cord in his mouth during the play. Claire would simply not shut up about this. As all the parents took videos, she was constantly saying things like, "I told him not to chew on it," and "Kevin, take the cord out of your mouth." I could tell other parents were getting irritated with her because her voice was getting on their video of their children. I lightly suggested in a whisper, "Hey, other people are taking videos. I don't think Kevin can hear you anyway." Claire did not take this well. She began loudly ranting to herself. She would repeat things like, "God, I want him to shut the fuck up," and mock my voice with, "Kevin can't hear you." Over time she gradually got louder and louder. Finally, when I was pretty sure Kevin's part in the play was done, I stood up and walked out. I waited in the car. Claire and Kevin came out about 20 minutes later. She opened the door and immediately began tearing into her about abandoning her and Kevin. When I responded that she was embarrassing me, she began sulking and ranting about how she's such an embarrassment to her family. I don't know what I could have done better. Should I have handled this differently? AITAH for telling my wife that my life would be better without her. My wife, Anne, and I have been married for 13 years. I'm 43 and she is 46. We do not have children. When we first began dating, nobody could make me happy like Anne. She always seemed to know exactly the right thing to say to me when I was down. But over the past decade or so, she has really started to show her true colors, and a lot of what her ex-husband said to me about her has begun to make more sense. For example, I have a very high-stress job. People bring me problems, and I fix those problems. But when I get home, 9 times out of 10, Anne just has more problems to throw onto my plate. She doesn't work, so she's free to do anything she wants to solve said problems during the day, but lately she has even begun making lists of things that she wants me to do after I work all day. But my biggest issue with Anne is that I can't ever really open up to her about anything. Whenever I talk about something bad that happened to me, she'll either try to one-up me or agree with the person who wronged me. Last Friday, I had a horrible day. There was an enormous problem at work that basically all fell on my shoulders to solve. When I was crossing the street after work, I had a green signal, and a bicycle blew through a red and side-clipped me. The cyclist yelled expletives at me and then rode away. I thought about calling the police because it was technically a hit and run, but there was probably nothing they could do. When I got home, desperate, I talked to Anne about what happened. She listened and then immediately took the cyclist's side. I reiterated that the cyclist ran through a red light, to which she responded that cyclists aren't obligated to stop. When I told her she was wrong and tried to put the issue to rest, she began frantically googling laws. She found that in our state, they can treat lights like a stop sign. She began triumphantly reading the law to me loudly, word for word, getting louder when I kept trying to tell her that I wasn't interested. At the end of her spiel she gave me this incredibly arrogant look, as if she was right. I just stared at her for a second and said that my life would be better without her. She got incredibly upset, shrieked at me until her voice was hoarse, and then packed a bag and left to stay with her parents. She has texted me all weekend demanding an apology, but I haven't responded. Did I do something unforgivable here? Update: I told my wife that my life would be better without her. She went nuclear, so I responded in kind. 2 weeks ago, I had an argument with my wife, Anne. This argument stemmed from Anne's incessant need to contradict me and everything I say. Anne left in a fit of rage to stay with her parents, and then kept spamming me with texts demanding an apology. a few days after and left. I felt something I hadn't in a long time at home. Peace. I didn't have someone nagging me about literally everything I did. I didn't have to eat my meals in the correct order. Something about pH balance that she probably saw from some brainrot creator on TikTok. I didn't have to wash my feet after getting home. I could actually enjoy myself, which is impossible when Anne is around, because I found many years ago that she tends to get the most aggressive when I seem like I'm either in a very good or very bad mood. I then did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to her ex. He was more than eager to talk about Anne and her shenanigans, so we met up for drinks. He and I both had near identical experiences with her. Anne is, through and through, a pretty horrible person, especially to her romantic partners. He cited irreconcilable differences for divorcing her, where it was no specific event, but just a long list of terrible interactions, and coming to the realization that he detested her as a person. During this time, Anne went silent on me. I used this lull in our relationship to visit a lawyer, who told me that due to the nature of laws in our state and the fact that Anne is able-bodied and educated, the chances of me ever having to pay alimony are basically zero. I called Anne at that point. She, for some reason, still expected an apology. I told her that I wanted a divorce. She threatened to take everything from me. I said she could try, but any further contact should be done through my lawyer. I'm fully happy to split our assets fairly. I'm fairly sure that Anne will agree to any deal that gives her more than half. It's just the way she is, and if it's a 55/45 split, I don't care. All I'll have to do is act like she got the better of me, and since she's an idiot, she'll happily agree. I told my daughters that I was moving on with the separation anyway. I found out that my husband cheated on me when I was pregnant. Both times. I only found out 3 months ago, and until then we were a very happy family and my husband is a great dad. Our daughters are 14 and 16. They know the reason we are getting a divorce, and that he had 2 affairs with 2 women, but not all the details. They are opposed to the idea of divorce anyway and they threaten to never see me again if I went through with it, because the offense happened so long ago. I understand that they don't want change, and their lives are upheaval. I know all that, but I just can't be with him anymore. I can't even look at him. Nothing is working. Therapy is not working, and they are adamant about never seeing me again. I haven't seen them in 2 months. We rent a small studio apartment now, and we live every other week in the house with the girls and the other lives in the studio apartment. The girls refuse to stay with me at the house during my weeks, but they stay in the studio with my husband. Therapist said not to change the arrangement anyway, because I thought maybe I should stay in the studio permanently, so they have more room to live. We bought our house 2003, and it has quadrupled in value, so we are going to be able to have 2 decent homes, even if not as big and beautiful as this one, but it is not like they will be living in bad conditions. Before all this, they were close to both of us, and loved us equally. Now they only love him. Last week they made it clear that if I filed for divorce, they will never see me again. I said I was never going back to him, and they said I made my choice, and they will never see me again.